Now, that might scare you, and this is where it really comes into it, because when people hear those numbers, they go, whoa, say what? I'm not signing up for that. I'm not having kids. Forget that. Hey.
Hey guys.
So today we're going to talk about the real cost of raising a child, right? So this is such an important topic.
That's right.
Because come on, you must at some point have thought about the idea of possibly having a child. You know, we're parents. We've been parents for how long now?
7 years.
7 years going on 8 years.
Yeah.
And we've been married now for about 10 years. In a few months, it's going to be 10 years. So we've had our fair share of experience of raising children. We've got 2 kids. But beyond talking about the cost, what else are we going to cover today?
Yeah, so we're not just going to talk about the money side of raising a child, but also other things, other costs that we face as parents when it comes to raising a child. We're going to be talking about that as well.
Yeah, and this topic's really important because when people think about financial independence, they say things like, oh, I don't think I should have children because it might disrupt my goal for financial independence. And some people actually decide to wait before having children, compared to other people who might, for example...
Just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it and just have kids.
Yeah.
And then you have those who do the calculations to try and work it out, to decide... we had a spreadsheet to kind of work out if it's going to worth our while trying to do it. And, I've got to tell you, it's been life-changing having kids.
Oh, yeah.
And so we thought we'd just do this video to be absolutely real.
Yeah.
So stick around because we're going to go through numbers and go through a bunch of other things to make this a really fun and candid video about the real cost of raising a child.
My name is Mary.
And I'm Ken.
Of the Humble Penny and the Financial Joy Academy. And what we do on this channel is give you the tips, the insights and the practical hacks to help you work towards a dream life of financial independence and money joy.
So let us know. We want you to join us with this video actually. Let us know in the comments, are you currently contemplating whether you want to have children? Right? And has the cost of having children put you off? So perhaps you might be a parent already who maybe has 1 child and you're thinking about going on to the second one or even the 3rd child. Has the cost of having children put you off? Or has the cost of having children put you off because you've got financial goals that you're aiming for? So I think it'd be really interesting to kind of know where you're at. Where we're at is that we're parents, as I mentioned earlier, but we're also financially independent. So we've proved on our journey that it's possible to become financially independent while still having a family.
Yeah.
But we're making this video because we really want to go into the details because it's come at a cost. There are many costs that people don't talk about. We're going to talk about the cost. We're going to go over money, obviously, but we're going to talk about other things as well. Yeah, and we're going to be looking at the cost for a child up to the age of 21. Okay, so you've had a child. What would it cost you in terms of money all the way to the age of 21? All right, let's dive straight in and explore these costs of raising a child.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we've made certain assumptions. And by the way, this particular area of money, we've done this particular video into a blog post so that you can look at the assumptions that we've made and things like that. We're going to put those details in the links below and above for you guys to click through and look at the details because we want to just get through the many points we have on this video today. So the key assumptions we've made are that life is assumed to be for somebody in the UK. Okay, and you're assumed to be living in a major city or near a major city. The second assumption is that we've added inflation to these numbers of 2%, and also the numbers we've got are quoted in sterling, but we have some US dollar equivalents. To be able to analyze this, we've made certain assumptions around the quality of life you're going to give your child, potentially. And we've assumed that there are 4 different qualities of life in terms of that you can give a child. Okay, so the first quality of life you can give them is a basic life. And so basic life is that you rely solely on state education. So your child's educated through the state and also get their health and so on, the health cover and so on through the state. And the child does not bother with university. So that's kind of like the basic end of one quality of life you can give your child. What's the second one you can give a child?
Okay, so the second option is Basic Life Plus. So this is the same option as the Basic Life. However, the only difference is that your child decides to go to university for up to 3 years.
Okay, the third option is midlife. This is where you, beyond just state education, you educate your child in private primary education, and also beyond relying on the state for health, such as the National Health Service here in the UK, you also have health insurance for your child, And in addition to that, you have life insurance that covers your child as well.
Okay, so profile number 4 is a rich life.
Yeah.
So this is the highest level here, where your child would ultimately be exclusively privately educated up until secondary level. And then they go to university on top of that.
Basically, that's the baller's life. Yeah, so the really rich people will give their children that quality of life.
In addition to this, you will likely have private health insurance as well as life insurance. And also adds to that is extracurricular activities that your children will likely be attending, and also the expensive holidays that your child will likely go on with their school and with the family as well.
And brand new cars and all the things that comes with living the rich life, basically.
That's right.
Okay. And in addition to all of that, we've basically made assumptions which we're going to put up on the screen briefly. You can pause it and see them. Basically, we've looked at every area, looking at food, clothing, education, toys, holidays, and we've made assumptions for each one of those 4 different life possibilities that you can give a child: basic, basic plus, mid, and rich life. And based on that, let's now look at what the costs are, what it works out to be over 21 years. In fact, to make this fun, wouldn't it be really interesting to know from people, what do you think it will cost to have, a basic life in terms of numbers? What would it cost to raise one child, giving them a basic life over 21 years? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
I think it'd be really
nice.
interesting to know what you guys think. But in the meantime, should we just do a big reveal of what the numbers are that we worked out?
Yes.
And bear in mind, these are our numbers based on our assessment of being parents, now for 8 years, and then extrapolating those numbers from actual numbers that we've had and extending that, extrapolating, making assumptions up to around 21 years. And we've looked at these numbers, by the way, and compared them to numbers from, much bigger, research, houses and so on. And they're not crazily out of order. So let's just share our numbers.
So, drum roll!
Yep.
So we've estimated that with a basic life, it would cost an average of around £174,000. So
Wow.
this is from birth till up until the age of 21.
Now, that's a humongous number. And if that's not knocking you off your seats, seriously, I don't know what will. That is a scary number. That number is scary, right? It really does scare me.
Actually,
and that's for a basic life. Just walk us through all the other numbers. And we're going to put this up on the screen in a minute.
Yeah.
So for a basic life plus, what does that work out to be?
So that works out to be £216,000 on average. Yeah, a crazy number again.
Now, with the midlife, where they actually go to private education for primary, as well as their university being paid for by their parents, what did we estimate that to work out to be?
We've estimated that to be £382,000.
Now, these are crazy numbers,
That's
right? They're
multiple
crazy
houses.
numbers. And you'll probably think to yourself, nah, it can't be that. But really think about it. Really think about it. Now, give us the rich life. This is for the ballers, the really rich parents who are absolutely rolling and who have got rich kids, right?
Yeah.
How much would they likely, on average, on estimate, be spending per child?
So we've worked out, guys, that it would likely cost on average £806,000. £806,000.
Don't forget, the rich life profile for the parents who, right from as soon as the baby's born, they've signed them up to private schooling, private nursery, private primary, private secondary, private university, private all of that basically. They're paying for everything at the high level. Plus they're living the rich life. They're living in those postcodes in London or in other major cities and so on. Now, that might scare you, and this is where it really comes into it, because when people hear those numbers, they go, whoa, say what? I'm not signing up for that. I'm not having kids. Forget that.
Yeah.
And we're going to put this stuff up on the screen for you guys to see, the summary of what we just talked about. The point to make really is that you don't obviously pay those numbers straight away.
Exactly. This is accumulated.
Yeah.
This is, you don't
Yes, over time. And the other thing to make as well is that the location matters. So the numbers we're quoting are based on assumptions for somebody living in like an expensive city or something, like London. Or around London, or in a country like the UK, for example, in certain parts, in major cities. But if you could have your child in a really cheap part of the world, and so the cost of living might be a lot cheaper.
Oh yeah, of course. And there's other things you could also lean on to family and friends who recently had children, and you can get hand-me-downs, whether it's clothes, buggy, the lot, equipment, things that you need for your child, and the things that you can't get. If you have like a baby shower, you can have that on a gift list and get people to buy that for you. Definitely look for ways to make a saving. We also did exclusive breastfeeding for our boys, but that might not always be possible for some people, but it's definitely something to explore if you can.
Healthier and cheaper.
It's healthier and cheaper, but
Yeah, I mean, the way we've looked at this really is, and this is how as someone who's very analytical, looking at my spreadsheet, I remember when we were having kids. You guys, you're going to laugh at this, right? I had my spreadsheets with 2 different tabs going, scenario 1, 1 child scenario, scenario 2, 2 children scenario, and how much that would work out. And it mattered that I looked at those numbers because we looked at this rationally, as well as saying to ourselves, what, this is kind of what we started off with, like when we met, we wanted to have kids, we wanted to have a family and so on. And so, but then this is the key point, we made this a time problem. So those numbers that Mary quoted are essentially numbers of possibilities over time, depending on the quality of life you choose for your children over time. And obviously over time you choose to live in different places potentially, and things change and so on. So that shouldn't really scare you. It should wake you up, that's for certain. You should literally go, whoa, I can't believe those numbers, and those numbers are real. We're seeing them in our lives in different ways. But another perspective, really thinking about it, is one way to see those numbers as well is to say to yourself, well, what if I could outsource that cost to a side hustle over time?
Yes.
Like, could a business pay for those costs for me?
Yes. Exactly.
Consider that. That's kind of how we see it. Like, I could make an assumption that, for example, this YouTube channel pays for the cost of raising our kids.
Yeah.
That's a fair assumption to make, because like if we decided to direct those costs to costs of children, it would easily cover it.
Yeah.
So I want you to just think of this creatively, not just see this as a problem, as like, here's this big number and I'm overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. Raising children, you should never have to make that be the determining factor as to whether you have children or not. I mean, think of, look, this is the number of children I want. How can I make this happen? Not this is how much I've got. Therefore, this is the number of children we should have. But yeah, that's my opinion.
I remember there's a guy, remember I told you about a guy who explained this analogy of a money fountain. And he said, create for your life a money fountain. So you think of a chocolate fountain, in effect a money fountain. Think of a chocolate fountain, but essentially a money fountain. And the money fountain is there to essentially chock out the money that you need for your life to happen whilst you get on. So essentially what he was saying in different ways was, create for yourself assets that generate income. All the things that we preach here at the Humble Penny. So essentially, see this as a time problem and don't let those big numbers put you off, but be aware of them.
Be aware and plan, prepare. Okay, so the next cost is the cost of aspiration.
Yeah.
Okay, so we both come from an immigrant background and we both want better for our kids, So aspiration is good, but there's also a cost to pay for it.
So true. I want you to really think about that because you might want better education for your children. And we see this very common amongst Africans or Asians and so on, or even native British people or European people, to want their children to be privately educated, right? There's nothing wrong with private education, for example, by itself. In fact, we're fans of private education to an extent, but just remember that the cost of that aspiration is a real cost.
Yes.
It's a real number, and many people don't think of it that way when they think about having children. All right, next one's the cost of time. Now, I remember when we were single, we had all these options. We're like, oh yeah, let's go and do what we want, date night. What should we do today? Let's meet at London Bridge and let's wander off into the sunset or wherever and go and do whatever we want. That does not happen anymore like that, basically. That's the reality. So, I mean, I've made some notes here. Essentially, in the first 2 years of your life of having a child, what happens? How much time do you have?
Zero.
Zero.
Literally.
Basically, put a line through it.
Yeah.
From age 3 to 5, how much time do you have?
You have a bit more time. I mean, you have grandparents and, relatives. You can take your children there over the weekend to spend some time with them. Otherwise, weekends are literally a write-off.
Yep.
Activities, clubs, football, music, drama. That usually takes up pretty much the whole day. And then the older they get invited to parties every weekend. So you basically become a full-time chauffeur for your children.
Absolutely. And I was going to add that from age 5 to 10, the differences between boys and girls emerge even more so, with boys going off to football clubs or girls and so on going off to instrument lessons and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, that pretty much means your time's finished. We used to have times in weekends where we would chauffeur the kids to like 4 parties at a weekend, which means no time.
Basically.
And from age 10 to 15, I've written down here that there's more pressure now from the likes of exams, and basically it becomes about the emotions and dealing with the emotions of your kids. And from the age of 15 to 21, you likely give up altogether, essentially, because you hand over the mentoring of your children to possibly godparents, and the chances are they'll still be living at home, but they'll still be taking up your time, but in a different way altogether.
Okay, so the next one that people do not talk about often enough is the cost of effort. And here we're talking about backache and heartache. Usually you'd find that backache comes first and then heartache comes after, although some people might argue that heartache and backache comes together straight away from when the baby comes home and you're just overwhelmed with so many emotions. But we had a bit of fun with this when we thought about this. We drew a graph we're going to show you guys. We've called it our heartache versus backache chart over time. I'm going to put it up on the screen for you to kind of see. We've got intensity on one end and time passing between the age of 21 on one end. And what you see on that chart, as Mary alluded to earlier, is that at the very beginning stages of having a child, you have mostly backache. Yeah.
Right? And around the age of 10, the backache kind of intensifies around maybe the age of 7 thereabouts, because you're carrying your children a lot and stuff like that. And then that tails off around the age of 10 because they're running around and doing their own thing. But guess what kicks in then is the heartache starts to spike up, because at this stage, these children are starting to get from the age of 10 to 15, those teenage years where, we're not there yet, but we hear that things really intensify from a heart perspective.
Oh, yeah.
So though your backache falls off, the heartache really intensifies. It's just some of the things that people don't talk about a great deal. It's just this cost of effort. We're constantly feeling like, oh my God, it's very difficult actually being a parent.
Yeah, but every age has its different challenge. It's always a different challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next cost is the cost to relationships.
Yes. Now, this one is a very interesting one. We were one of the first people in our kind of friend circle to have a child specifically. So we got married and then we had a child. I was 30 when we had our first child. You were 29. And what we started to notice when we had kids was that, first of all, I couldn't just answer phone calls from my single friends to come out and meet in central London for a meal or for a drink, because I had to come home and do, kind of support Mary, who is on her maternity leave and stuff like that. We started to notice specific trends. What are the trends that we noticed with friendships?
Yeah, so I didn't obviously go on my annual holidays that I would usually go on with my girls. And also just going out at the weekends, we tend to find that we went out with other friends who started to have children as well. So whilst we were with our friends, the children would play together. So that friendship dynamic also slightly changed a bit. What else? Yeah,
there was just a real cost to friendships because you were spending more time with people who understood the dynamics of parenting and the challenges of it.
Exactly.
You were less likely to spend time with your single friends because to you, you'd kind of moved on in a way because you'd become a parent and they didn't really quite understand the challenges that you and I were facing. It meant that we were more likely to gravitate to people who had kids already because they just kind of understood the vibes that a parent went through.
Yeah, I mean, the friends are very supportive either way, but yes, you tend to find that was the case.
Okay, so the final cost is the cost of opportunity, okay? So this is obviously a personal finance channel, and we couldn't talk about this particular topic without talking about opportunity cost. When you think about all those numbers and think about all those other areas of cost that we didn't even talk about, such as, for example, you investing money for your child in a junior ISA, these are costs that we didn't even account for example, various other costs. All those costs have a true opportunity cost when it comes to you working towards a goal such as you becoming financially independent. But seriously, just being absolutely real, our journey, our personal journey has shown us that this is possible. Just because you have children does not mean you will not become financially independent. It will take longer, and you need to be very smart and savvy about the journey and your decision making, your lifestyle that you subscribe to, how you play the game essentially becomes different. In fact, I'd argue that if you've got children, you have more skin in the game.
Oh, yes.
There's so much more, I'd say, kind of drive and determination for you to make it.
100%. For example, we did NCT classes and it was about 8 families, right? And I think out of the 8, literally one by one, all the mums, hardly any of them went back to work because they had the plans of, they'll take a 1-year maternity leave or 6 months. But when it got down to it, they just could not see themselves going back to work. Things changed. A lot of them started their own businesses. A lot of businesses that you find, really, really successful businesses, started by mums. Mums who just cannot see themselves back in the workplace. Not to say that you can't have children and continue your career. Of course you absolutely can, and there are women who are doing it and finding a way. But you find that a lot of the time the people, their work changes. Maybe they might want to just stay at home and be a stay-at-home mum, which will impact the amount of money coming in, which would require more reliance on the dad. Or it might even be the dad staying at home and a mum going to work. So there'll be more pressure, but dynamics definitely do change after having a child.
Yeah, so guys, we really hope you've enjoyed this video today. I mean, like we said earlier, we've got all the details for this video in a detailed blog post, which we'll put in the links below as well as above for you guys to check out. Now, we couldn't not just talk about costs without talking about the joys of having children. So we've also created a blog post called The Real Joy of Having Children, or Raising a Child, which, we'd love to make into a video one day, potentially. If you guys are interested, let us know in the comments and we'll consider doing that. But we believe that the joys of having children really far exceed the cost, the financial costs and other costs of having children.
Far outweigh any other costs. The joy, we just can't even, read a blog post. But we recommend, definitely look to have children beyond just the numbers. Let
us know in the comments, guys, if you have really enjoyed this video, what thoughts came to you. As we mentioned earlier, are you looking to have kids? Has money and thinking about money stopped you having children? What are your thoughts on this video? Let us know in the comments. If you really enjoyed this video, come on, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and share this video with as many people as possible, because we think this is such an important topic and one that puts many people off, when in actual fact, you can find a way of playing this game of having kids whilst also pursuing your financial goals. Thank you so much for watching today's video.
Thank you, guys. And as ever, in all things, be thankful and seek joy.
Take care, guys.
Bye. Bye.